Hey there, my name is Kenyon Curtis, and obviously I'm here with Tommy Mello from A1 Garage Door. And look, one of the reasons that we're doing this interview, this is a little bit different. If you've been paying attention to the podcasts that Tommy's been doing, he's been interviewing some great people and getting some great information, some great background, resources, knowledge, and a lot of wisdom from these top business owners, right? That some pretty impressive people that Tommy's had on, and the marketing team, we got together and thought, why don't we do this fun little interview where we kind of take a peek into Tommy's brain for a few minutes and uncover a little bit about him, because one of the things that we've realized, if you haven't had the chance to get on a discovery or a strategy call with us yet, there's some things that we're really learning and understanding about the challenges that business owners have. A lot of it we already knew, and so what we're doing though is bringing a different side of and some more information about Tommy and his journey to get here to where he's at. Just some things that could really help and connect with some of you, because look, a lot of you are in different positions. Some of you could just be getting started. Maybe you've been in business a few months or a few years. Maybe you've been around for 5 or 10 years and you've got a good flow going. Your business is working pretty good, but maybe you've plateaued, or maybe you're I would call it stuck. You may not call it stuck, but I would say stuck where you're growing, that 5, 10, 15% a year, but you know that you could do a little bit better. And so we want to bring some great information that's really going to help you understand what's going on behind the scenes with Tommy and I connecting with Home Service Expert, which is the consulting and coaching division of what we're doing here. And now it was kind of funny, like our marketing team put together a lot of questions, and I was reading through them, and honestly, it was all pretty cut and dry. It was a lot of information that you kind of already hear. So just to help you understand and get to know me a little bit, how I operate, and also again, like I said, to dig into Tommy's brain, we're gonna have a few different questions and conversations about just what happened along the way. So that really looking for a way to connect with you better where you're at in your progress and in the growth of your company. Some of the challenges that you're facing. Maybe obviously Tommy's faced a lot to get here over the last, how long? 10, 11 years?
12, yeah, 12 years.
12 years.
And I did business before that too, so yeah.
Right? So Tommy's got a lot to say, and I have some great fun questions that are gonna it's a good little insight to the mindset of a person, because one thing that I've realized and learned is that a lot of people when they're looking to grow their company or grow their business, they start to look at what other people have done, and that is a great way. That's one way to do it, and you do want to find out what systems are they using and how are they measuring and what are they looking at. But one other aspect of it is I like to look at is like, well, how are they making the decisions and what challenges did they have and how did they overcome? How did he Tommy, how did you overcome some of those challenges? Because it's one thing to say, well, I implemented a certain software, for example. That's great, but there's always some type of decision making or mindset that's going on behind that really made the difference. So we're gonna have some fun and get right into it. So I know Tommy's itching to talk, aren't you?
I'm ready.
Okay, so now you said that you were in business before A1 Garage Doors. Then what were you doing before that?
So when I was a kid, I started a landscaping business. Normal thing. You're kids, you mow lawns, shovel snow. And then when I got out to Arizona, I was doing lifeguard, bussing tables, different things. And I decided I already know landscaping. I can mow a lawn, and I knew how to hire a little bit. So started doing that, and it was tough. I'm allergic to grass, so
okay.
Started making some pretty good money, but it was a lot of work. I'd come back with scrapes, working late hours, really labor intensive, and I'm like, it's a lot of work. I wasn't cut out for that, so I started getting into a little bit more of like sprinkler systems and water conservation, and I used to do water conservation analysis. And I got some pretty big accounts. I got the Medical Society in Phoenix, a couple $2,000 accounts, and I really didn't have a lot of overhead. So it was okay. It wasn't where I wanted to be, but it was cool. I learned a lot about business in that little few years that I did that.
Well, what kind of a business background do you have? Did you take any classes or anything?
Yeah, now I got a master's degree, but back then I didn't have a whole lot. At one point, I remember one day I watched this infomercial for a Bowflex. So I went on Arizona Republic and I found one, and the guy goes, "Dude, you are the 20th person that called. I sold it after the first time." So I went on Craigslist, and there was 8 of them. I bought all 8 of them, and I put an ad in Arizona Republic. And from that point, I sold 150 Bowflexes, and then I went to Total Gyms. And anything that I could find an infomercial on, I would do that. And I was flipping cars and doing the landscaping and bartending. So I always was an entrepreneur, but I was a one-man army. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't build systems. It was me going out looking at them, me buying them, me placing the ad, me meeting the people. So I learned how to make money, and a lot of people do individually. Mm-hmm. But that's the extent of it, and that's...
So what do you think the reason was for that? Like, is it just because you were like, just pedal to the metal, make it happen? Or what do you think drove you to just kind of be like a one-man army back then?
Well, my mom and dad, they got a divorce, and it was really, I hear them arguing about bills all the time. Mm-hmm. And I remember listening to them talk about, that really was a lot for me as a kid to see that. My dad had a transmission shop, and he was always very entrepreneurial, but I just was always worried. Like, when I was 12, I got a job washing dishes because I knew I needed to, if I wanted something, I had to make my own money. Mm-hmm. And so that had a lot to do with the way I am today, on how I'm out there. Money is what I want to take out of the equation, because that's always been a big part of my equation growing up. So I think that's kind of what molded me into wanting to do some big things and big business and start new businesses. And it's not a bad thing, but there's always your why. And if I trace it back, I think it has to do a lot with how I was raised. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing. I love my parents. They're great, and they're still great people.
It's just the way it was, right? Sometimes we learn those lessons from our parents. So your lack of money growing up really drove you to find ways to make it.
Yeah, and I never wanted to say there's an opportunity that I can't go on. I never wanted to say, sorry, buddy, you don't have enough money, so you can't come with me tonight. You can't go to the movie. And I know nobody needs that from me. They don't rely on me to give them stuff. But I like to have the opportunity to say, let's go. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about it. If you don't have the money, you're still my friend, or you're still my family, or whatever, and never have that be part of the equation.
Gotcha. So what was the transition from just making money entrepreneurial to actually owning a business? Like, what do you think was one of the biggest hurdles for you to get to that point?
Well, I used to think of business, like with flipping cars, I thought that was a business. Some people do think that's a business, but it's really not. And the way that I look at a business is, if I go out of town, if I was to leave for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time, would I still make money? Mm-hmm. And there's not a whole lot of things I was doing at the time that would allow me to leave, whether it was bussing, tables, bartending, flipping Bowflexes, flipping vehicles. If I leave, the income stops. And a lot of times in business, when you leave your business, if you're the sole brain behind it, you're the one that does the scheduling, the dispatching, you're just a key part of that business. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. But it really isn't a business until you get each different, let's call it part of the organizational chart functioning without you. Mm-hmm. Now, you're a core piece of the business, but how did you get it to the point to where it could run itself? If Tommy, I don't like to say get hit by a bus, but if I was to hit the $1 billion lottery and I didn't need this business, could it still go on? Could people still make good money with it?
Mm-hmm. So how long did it take you with A1 Garage before you got to that point that you felt like you could walk away from it? And I imagine you were probably there sooner than you were comfortable enough to walk away from it.
Maybe. I don't know. I walked away. So the funny thing was, and I had...
And walk away, I mean just by for a week, take a vacation. Yeah. Not worry about it.
I mean, my best friend and I got into business in end of 2006. We got into the garage door business. Great guy, still my best friend. We're just not business partners as of 2010. But back then, he would answer the phone calls. I was running a lot of the calls. He would run if he had to. And we got ourselves into a good amount of debt because he was a high producer as a service technician. And he goes, I know the margins on this stuff. It's all profit. We didn't know back then how much it cost to acquire a customer, hire a call center manager, get a great dispatcher, or a software, or pay city taxes. Who pays taxes?
Right.
So we didn't know any better, and we got ourselves into this hole, and it was bad. And one day we're out to eat, and a customer called, and he said, "Hey, can I call you back? We're at lunch." And I was like, "You're answering our phones?" And at that point, there was a lot of weed smoking, and it was just not. I was working my butt off,
yeah.
And unfortunately, in a business partnership, I've seen husband and wives, I've seen brothers, I've seen family members turn on each other, and we didn't turn on each other. Luckily, we were able to. I built up animosity. I think he had some animosity. We just decided to go separate ways. But part of the problem, and I think the number one problem is from small business owners, anywhere under 10 employees, they think they're doing great on the phones. They're like, my mom answers the phones, my wife answers the phones, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the fact is they're not really getting the booked phone calls. So booking phone calls is such a huge amount of where I see failure. Everybody says, I need to get more employees, I need to hire more people, and I get that. But first, make sure you got some of the core fundamentals down. And it starts with booking the phone calls that are coming in.
Okay. So so back to the business question. Was there a time, like, I guess, what got you from, like, we talk about, like, you know, reading the E-Myth and stuff, and there's that difference between working in the business and on the business. What was one of the biggest challenges making that flip for you?
For me, it was trust. That's why I got my mom and stepdad to move out in 2010. I needed somebody I could rely on. I needed somebody that if I was leaving, that payroll would happen. That I wouldn't get robbed from blindly. I could count on them looking and opening the mail and making sure the city taxes are getting paid. At that point, it wasn't a huge business. We had 20, 30 employees. We were doing a few $1 million. I got it up pretty quick.
Were you just here in Arizona at that time?
That was just Phoenix,
okay.
And then we went to Tucson in 2012. But I decided that you got to have good people you could trust, because without trust, you don't have anything. And I didn't know how much it meant to me until I think back, and I'm like, man, trust, because I didn't have any checks and balances.
Yeah.
I didn't have, there wasn't a system in place to make sure that I can look at this software, this QuickBooks, and this and that. So it was like, if I leave, can I trust that everything's going to go good? And a lot of times people say yes, and they come back and their business is gone. Everything was running smooth. I had these jobs that needed to get installed, and you come back and 2 employees quit. That's why the trust. Without trust, it's like, in any relationship, I think trust is a big driver, and the communication's also huge. But a lot of times what business owners do is they go, I'm going to go to Hawaii, but I'm not going to make a phone call. I'm getting away. I need to clear my mind. And I can make it 2 days without, I'm in my system all the time.
Checking.
And it's not about phone calls, but now I log into a lot of stuff. And it's simple logins. And I am the chief financial officer of the company. I'm the one signing all the checks. I'm the one taking on debt to grow the business. I'm the one, leasing vehicles. And I'm also the one that, hopefully, as this thing begins to grow, potentially $1 billion company.
So here's a question, because I've run into this with myself personally. Was there a time where you felt that you knew everything? In other words, that you weren't looking for help and weren't looking for assistance?
I would say there was a time that I wanted to make my own mistakes. I'm kind of a stubborn guy that no, I don't need a lot of help. And, as the time goes on and I go into more businesses that are successful. See, I don't go into a lot of businesses my size. I go into 100, 150, 200 million. And I just pick up these certain traits. And then I decided not to be a jack of all trades, but I'm a master of one. So when I hire a consultant, I look for someone at the size I'm growing to, inevitably here really shortly going to be doing 100 million a year, that could bring me one major key. But when I say one major key, it's either marketing or it's call bookings or systems. Someone that could just help me if I need a better way of tracking performance improvement plans and setting that stuff up. So I like to find someone now, if I do consulting, lead me in the right direction. If I want to do an email blast campaign, I really like to find someone that specializes in work with thousands of people. But I got to tell you, that's why we decided the Home Service Expert, is because I spent a lot of money on consulting, learning about business owners, talking to general managers, talking to call center managers. I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And I believe we got some of the state-of-the-art techniques and softwares and sequences that you put on autopilot. And that's what I love, is you can just check things really carefully, but really easily, and know exactly what's going on within your business. And I'm like, I love the feedback from other businesses on the podcast, but I got to tell you, it's changed the way we do work. But what we've been able to put together here and some of the other things we're working on is just, it's mind-boggling, and it's game-changing.
Totally.
So.
Now, I know that with a lot of businesses, some of them, I've seen companies that are doing $1 million, $2 million a year, they're scared to death to spend $3,000 or $4,000 a month on marketing. And what's your budget on marketing right now? I know you mentioned it on the podcast.
Just last month alone, I spent $75,000 on TV.
Okay.
So on Google, it's usually around $100,000 a month on pay-per-click. On Valpak and Money Mailer, I'm spending about $80,000 just on those. I'm in Clipper. I mean, those are just 3 or 4 to name off. I mean,
Right.
it's
So what happened before? Like, when did you make the switch? And I'm just kind of curious, like, what got you to, I guess, be fearless with your marketing?
it's really measuring, and I think that's one of the things we offer in the Home Service Expert is I don't want to really. The first thing we do is to check, do you know what your call booking rate is? Because call booking and then measuring your acquisition costs and knowing that you're running into those jobs, I think we provide some pretty cool tools to be able to just know those numbers, because really before we can work on your business, we need to know some key performance indicators, some stats about what you're doing. And a lot of these small business owners, they don't have those, and it's so easy. I mean, we can work with them for a month and get that all to know, listen, we changed this, and this. We'll give you a 10 times multiplier for the year. Like, you can pay for us for the year, we'll make that in a month.
Yeah.
And it's so simple and it's so easy. So what I like to get is a no risk guarantee of somebody that could come in and tell me that I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. And if you don't like it, you don't have to pay me. Because those are the guys that I always found that are like, look, I met this guy the other day. He goes, Tommy, I could connect for the real estate lead gen stuff. He goes, I'll get you a new buyer a day. He goes, well, how about this? Because I'm doing a test program. You pay me if you don't like it. He goes, honestly, I don't want you to pay me. This is a test program. It's a pilot program. But he goes, I think I could deliver way more value than I'm even promising you. But I'm promising you this. And my partner Dustin listened to it, and he goes, dude, that was like a no-brainer. That was like, let's sign up today. Yeah. He was just really cordial about it. He told us who he worked with. He gave us some testimonials. I said, this is a pilot program. And I said, absolutely. And it's something that I'm not great at. And personally, what I've found, and this is going to be a shocker to a lot of people out there, but I don't have the time to do it all. Sometimes I have to pay $70, $80, $100 an hour to get something done. But let me tell you this. It might take this person 10 hours. Where it would take somebody else at $15 an hour, 2,000 hours. Because I always ask myself now, how much is my time worth, and how do I get it there the quickest? So it's one of those things where you got to really understand that I can do an email campaign or a text message campaign or a mailing campaign, and we can spend 6 months preparing it, but the time, the opportunity cost is so much more than getting it done right away, professionally, with a high open rate, with a high contact rate, with a proven technique that works. And it's worth paying that, because guess what? I mean, the time is worth something as well.
Yeah, it's worth paying it because it's taking it off of your to-do list, isn't it?
Well, the ROI. You think ROI can be looked at several ways. Money is what people do. They go money, but they never think about their time. And if I could give you back 10 hours of your week, what can you do in those 10 hours? Now, I'll tell you too, a long time ago, when I was first getting into business, I used to waste a lot of time. I used to waste time working, and I don't like the cliche of the E-Myth, because everybody says it that I talk to. Every podcast, every single person, work on the business, not in the business. What does that really mean?
Yeah.
And we do a phone call every morning with all my managers at 8:15, and we say, how are you going to work in the business today, or on the business? And I'll tell you what, I've gone over this a million times, but still some of them are like, I got to go to customer, put out fires. I gotta go fix this truck. I gotta go this. And there's still, those managers in my minds don't have the potential to move up as quick as I'd like them to, because the guys that are saying, I'm gonna go meet this person to work on our marketing campaign. I'm gonna do a ride along with this person to work on their conversion rate. I'm gonna be at a job fair to work on recruiting today. Right. Those are the guys that are focused on really building the business. And so many times owners go back to that in the business. I'm going to go do a few quotes. I'm going to go check out the warehouse, sort out a few things. No, that's all in the business. That's all day-to-day activities. And to get that concept right and truly understand that, so what I recommend, and I did this myself, is journaling throughout the day. And how much of your time, like literally most guys are at about 20% capacity, if that. I mean, they're going to, it's time for lunch, and then they get interrupted. They're got-a-minute guys. Yeah, I got a minute. 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 I didn't get shit done today. I had one important thing to get done, but it's so important, it's so big, I'm going to put it off till Friday because it's huge. Well, guess what? May went by, June went by, July went by, and you're like, that one big thing is still there. But if you really sat down for 5 hours uninterrupted, and so many people, and I'm not literally, a lot of people listening, they say, I'd rather work from home. If I'm going to get anything done, I'm going to work from home, and I can get so much more accomplished.
Because you don't have all the distractions.
You don't have, the distractions, but that's BS. I mean, at the end of the day, close your door, tell them, don't interrupt me. I don't care if the place is burning down. Literally, I'll hear the fire alarm. That's the only time I want you to interrupt me.
Yeah.
If the place is burning down. What I'm working on is so much more important because guess what? All these fires that you're interrupting me, I'm working on fixing and preventing those fires. Until you can let me prevent them, we're going to keep going on with these fires. And that's just... It's not a way to live. It's not a way to grow. And it's no way to have a good relationship with your family, your kids, and anybody that's close to you. And it's something that took me a long time because literally now we have our top 5 board that we're working on, the top 5 things that are going to impact the business the most. And the biggest thing I learned from every consultant I've ever worked with, every $100 million plus company is, have you made the time on your schedule? And when you go make that time, is there an agenda? And do you fight tooth and nail to get that stuff accomplished? Not from A to M, not from A to T, from A to Z, and fully implemented. If that happens and you can continue to work on that list and you get 3 things done a week, you just accomplished 150 things that year that worked on the business. And until you start making time for that and working on yourself and meditating and working out and eating right, that's one thing, but also work on your employees and work on the processes and the systems, and whether it be manuals or call booking rates or just making them better at handling objections or finding out why don't you sound good on the phone? I mean, when I hired you, you did. Is there something going on at home or is there something going on here? But the more training you can do, it's like, I went from wanting to train 2 hours a week for each employee. Now I'm at I want to do 6. And I know eventually, this is going to sound crazy, 10 hours a week on a 40-hour week? That's crazy. But what if I said in those 30 hours they could do 5 times the results of what they were doing for those 10 hours? And guess what those 10 hours do? They make me and you have a bond. You're committed. People say they care about money, and they do. Money is very, very important, but they also care about, I heard something like 73% of people are really unhappy. They care about, do you care about them? Do they have a say at their job? Do they have any way to make things better for themselves? Do they feel appreciated? Can they give constructive criticism? Or are you just going up to them when they mess up? Because how good is it to say, we're building a board, it's called I Caught You Doing Something Right board. Nobody has that. I've not been into a business that says, what did you find somebody doing correctly? And that's important because all the time we go, well, you didn't book this call, your booking rate's not good, your sales average not good, your conversion rate, you got all these issues. And I don't get off on a tangent, but I think this is something really big.
So, when did you realize that measuring things that as detailed, because you measure a lot now, more than you used to, don't you?
Yeah, I do measure a lot, but it's automated. It's not something that I'm crunching. I'm not working on a pivot table from Excel and pulling this data from here and then pulling this. We're always figuring out ways to use data, but use it very easily. And so many people too, they have 55 KPIs. And it's like...
It's a lot to measure. Do you imagine that there's probably like one thing that tells you the story about 5 other things usually?
Absolutely.
Without measuring all 5?
Oh, yeah. And you can dig in deeper to things like for example, we have a really, really high end, like the Cadillac of parts. We call it the Max Life. And if you're not selling any of them, I'm looking at, do you even know how to sell a nicer part? Well, rather than going into every part, because we have like 10 different kinds, I'll just figure out, do you know how to sell the Cadillac? Do you know how to sell the Mercedes? And then, but you know what people say? I tell this guy all the time, we talk about it all the time. Yeah. But then I say this, Kenyon, do me a favor. You heard me just sell it to you, now you sell it back to me. And they'll go, but so I got this Max Life, and their body language is just real frigid and just
nervous.
And I'm like, you can't even sell it to me.
Yeah,
we talk every day.
Right.
And so role play is probably one of the best weapons I've learned, is take the time and repeat after me. Tom Hopkins used to say, stop thinking, repeat after me.
Yeah, and get it automatic, right?
But just say it so often that it feels, just smile and say, this home shows a lot of potential, doesn't it? You know, and he had all these lines that I used to love listening to him, but it's very, very true when the personal time you take to do things and teach these guys and make them feel comfortable with it.
What kind of difference did you see in the business when you started to measure?
You don't know what you don't know. I remember the original time I talked to Susie at Call Cap. I think I told her how good we were. She goes, she started cracking up and she goes, okay. She goes, I'll be impressed. We were at like 58, I think. And you know what I found out is everybody in the call center was saying that wasn't a bookable call. So they were grading things differently and things weren't getting, they were saying, well, that wasn't bookable because they called to see if they could come buy sprigs. And when I get on the phone, I go, so, why do you want to buy them? Well, I think I could handle them. I changed them out a while ago. Really? Well, if I could sell them to you, do you know how much they sell for online? Because you're looking at $150. They'll be here in about a week. And he said, yeah, you know, and I was like, that's kind of a Chinese-made quality. If I told him I could get it done somewhere in that range, would that be something you're interested in it? And what I found was I could sell them every time it was a parts call. And we've had wrong phone numbers call in and we booked it. Like, hey, I'm calling for the air conditioning. Oh no, we're a garage door company, but by the way, is your garage door making any noise or is there anything you're looking for?
You just gotta ask the question.
Well, I just moved into this home actually. I was thinking about getting my keypad reprogrammed and yeah, I can get you guys, I'd like to have you guys come out. So what you find is your people, they'll make up anything you want to get you to the numbers you want. And there's that gray, if you leave gray areas, so measuring just kind of helps you really learn where you need to focus your time. Because if you're going to work on the business, I'm telling you this, everybody and their brother is going to go, you need to work on your communication. You need to work on your marketing. You need to work on your manuals. You need to work on being a better leader. You need to work on more productive meetings. You need to work on dispatching more. And it's like, you need to identify where's the most common ground you could spend your time on to make the most effectiveness in the business. And to say you're going to work on these 10 things, what it ends up happening is read 10 books at the same time and tell me when you get done with one. You're not going to. Because by the time you're almost getting done, you're already on your 25th book. And now you got all these books that you're like, yeah, I read a couple chapters of all of them, but I haven't gotten anything out of them because I haven't gone through them yet. And that's the way it is in business. And I'm telling you, that's, as an entrepreneur, we're all the same in some aspects. Is it's hard to stay focused. It's hard to get done with things. We get the shiny eye, the shiny light syndrome where now I'm gonna go flip houses. Now I'm gonna go sell Bowflexes, bartend, have a landscaping company, and see what else I could do at the same time. When if I just focus on one. And I always told you that cliche. A guy told me, he goes, dude, I'm like, I put my eggs in different baskets. He's like, can you imagine if you put all your eggs in one basket, it would overfill so quickly into other baskets. And these other baskets will get filled, just not the way you're trying to put a half an egg in each of them at the same time.
Now you were young back, obviously a little younger back then when you were doing the bartending and the Bowflex and everything. But I mean, was that like would you call that like a recipe for burnout because you were just doing too much, or? I know your energy's different when you're young, but
yeah, it is. It's. I was having fun doing it, but I really wasn't building anything. I was building myself a job. Anything that I got to show up for, make all the phone calls, make all the trips in my truck, do all the things for as a job. And really, the definition of wealth is creating something that's making money when you're sleeping, when you're on vacation, when you're not actually 100% involved. And so this sounds cliche, but you should always be trying to work yourself out of a job.
Well, when did you make that transition then from like understanding that you were building yourself a job to building systems that got you away from it? It gave you the freedom to take some time away.
As sad as this sounds, I'm still working on it. I mean, I'm a lifetime student. I really believe that if I left on vacation for a month and didn't call, we'd grow like this. I believe we're growing like this. But we're not going to go down. But I believe there's still certain things that, look, if we do 40 million, 50 million this year, I don't know exactly what we're going to hit, but that's great. But when you start becoming a $250 million company, it's different than when you're a $1 billion company. It definitely works different. And your spot as an owner or a leader or a lead manager changes. And one of the biggest things to remember is you shouldn't have more than 7 to 10 direct reports. And I always say Jesus had 12 disciples, so he was able to handle a little bit more. But overall, you shouldn't be these direct reports. You're saying, well, I got 25 direct reports that come up to me. Well, then you'll never be able to do great at your job. And right now, I would say that I'm managing too much, Adam's managing too much, and we've got guys. So right now, what happens is you go through valley and peaks, okay? And there's never a perfect combination. It's a tango, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got too many customers, you can't get to it. Sometimes you got too many technicians, you can't get to it. And it's always a balancing act. And trust me, I work with Direct Energy, I work with some of the biggest companies in the world, and they've got the same problems. In fact, I was doing lead gen for a massive company, and they said, we need to hold off. We don't have enough technicians right now. And honestly, our booking rate's not where it needs to be. They've got a 1,200 person call center. They said their booking rate wasn't where it needed to be. They needed to hold off on leads that they love.
Yeah.
So based on those things, it's normal. If you think it ever goes away and all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, I solved the equation. We just figured out E equals MC squared and the theory of relativity.
It's all downhill from here.
It's not, but it gets easier. It does get easier.
So in what ways is business easier now than 7 years ago?
You know, the headaches have gone away.
Okay.
The nightmares, the phone calls in the middle.
What was the nightmare back then that you don't have now?
Oh, man.
Just pick one.
Well, the biggest one is the phones just don't stop ringing. My cell phone rarely rings now, unless it's a good. People know I like good news. So a good sale of a custom wood overlay. We just sold 4 of them, and we sold them for $25,000. I like those phone calls. Or hey, we just got 10 5-star Yelp reviews today. But it used to be a nightmare when I just remember hearing the tone of the phone, and it was a call coming in that wanted to book a phone call.
Yeah.
But every night I was the on-call guy.
Yeah.
And I had to take the phone call. And I'd just get burnt out, and I'm like, dude, please stop the madness. I can't take these phone calls. Like, you would think it's money. It's money ringing. But
the ringing of the phone was the emotion of like
okay, I gotta take this call. I gotta book it. There's a good chance I'm gonna be the one that has to run it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one of the biggest. I remember walking into my work, and this was 5 years ago probably, and I walked in and I just felt like I was walking into a soap opera. It was drama. 2 people were dating. 1 person didn't show up. 4 people were smoking cigarettes out front. Just da-da-da-da-da. The bathrooms weren't clean. We had way too small of a facility for how big we were. We still had another year left on the lease, and I'm like, I don't want to be in this drama. And I got to tell you, I enjoy coming into work. I come in on the weekends. I mean, you know, I'm here all the time, and I love it. I love it because we're not having these bitch fest. Yeah, I used to have meetings with my technicians, and all they do is they go, well, the call center and the dispatch and this and this and this and this and this. And I go, great information. We're going to try to communicate this. Now, that doesn't happen at all. The minute that starts happening, I go, great, fine, stop. Come talk to me afterwards. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Anytime anybody's talking negative or it goes down that way, because I like people to want to come here and actually love being here. And you're going to come to my company now to build a career. This isn't a job anymore. I would say 5 years ago, in my mind, a lot of the people, it was a job to them.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go around and tell you every single person's hunky-dory and they feel like they will hit the lottery by working here, but I can tell you what, there's not one person here that doesn't see progress from week to week. I say that it's getting better and better and better, and my job's becoming more solidified. I know what I'm supposed to do today. And I know what Tommy and the management's looking at of a good job and a bad job. Because there's nothing worse in life than a maybe. You're doing pretty good. There's nothing worse in life.
Yeah, because you don't know where you stand.
You're like, shoot, I just want to know. I want some feedback. Tell me. I mean, if I'm doing bad, let me fix it. Tell me what you need.
Yeah. If you were going to compare the purpose of your company, what was the purpose of it, again, 5 or 7 years ago compared to now?
You know,
because I know sometimes people just like, well, I just got to pay the bills, and I just got to make some money, and I just got to make a living, and I just got to take a vacation. Like, what was your purpose back?
I think when I got into this, I wanted to build something massive, and it's hard. It's Simon Sinek about finding out your why. And I think everybody goes into business, and I've heard every owner in the world, especially like Apple and Google, and they're like, to make it a better place for everybody. Well, when you got $1 billion in the bank, it's easy to say you live and breathe for these great things, because I do think as you create wealth, your brain starts to deliver more philanthropy.
Right.
You start saying, how can I give back? And you've got more humility, and you want to take care of people more. And it does change, because when you're fighting to survive, to keep employees and keep your home and keep your kids in the school they might be in, it is about making money. And anybody that says, I'd rather create 100 millionaires when they're trying to get their kids through private school and they're barely doing that is lying.
Yeah.
You know, they're lying to themselves. And until you could be honest with yourself and say, yes, back then to me it was making sure the bills were paid. I've never bounced a check as long as I've had A1 garage door service. Not once have I bounced a check.
Wow.
And I'm pretty happy about that because I know a lot of business owners can't say the same. And I've got a pretty good contingency plan that if the money runs out, I've got money in a lot of places, that it's not just built. I've basically leveraged, but I've got a safety net in so many spots that I'm not worried about growing very, very fast right now. But yeah, I would say that's a big thing, man, is yes, I was about money, and now if I really wanted to, I believe I could retire. I mean, if I actually made a few right things happen and I just wanted to sell the company by December, you know, we're here halfway through the year, a little over half, whatever. So my point is, it's changed. Yeah. And now I want to grow the biggest company in North America.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Somebody goes, when is enough? And I go, well, when I shoot a 74 at golf, I'm not going to stop when I shoot 70. And then I go back and hit a 68, and then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go, maybe I could shoot a 66.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 9 holes, but
yeah, right.
But yeah, so that's my point is, you know, if I see the potential out there and it's within a time frame I could see, then I'm going to jump on. I'm going to do the best I can because why not? As long as I'm comfortable with what I pay myself, I live the lifestyle I want for my age right now, and if I have that and I'm continuing to grow something in my mind, I don't have an exact. I want to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whomever I want. That's what I say. It's very generic. But it just means that if I want to go to Alaska with a few of my buddies for 4 days fishing, you know, we can do it.
Now here's an interesting thing that I've run into with different people, because I realize that a lot of times, I mean, you look at someone that's taking care of their health. They either do it because they want to stay healthy, or they're doing it because, well, they haven't been and they just had a heart attack. In other words, right? They're going to do it out of necessity or crisis rather than just to do it. But I think a lot of people also do that in business.
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna solve anything unless it's a crisis, or they're not gonna improve anything unless there's a problem.
It's a fight or flight, right?
Right.
When all of a sudden they get this notice and they owe the IRS, they're about to lose their business. Now all of a sudden they're laying off, they're cutting certain marketing that's not working. Hopefully they're making the right decisions, because the poison pill is when you start cutting all your marketing, but you keep all your employees. And I'd say 9 out of 10 businesses do that. They go, they were loyal. We're gonna get through this thing. You know what I've seen the best businesses do? Is they say, listen, we're gonna make a decision together, but we're gonna have to switch to 4 days a week for everybody. Yeah. And then what happens if you build the right culture? Because stuff does happen.
It does.
And with all businesses, and it says it hasn't happened to me in this drastic yet, but we're gonna cut down to 4 days a week, and then the person that was getting hit the hardest, the single mom, the people that were just struggling to make ends meet, somebody would give them a day and say, you still get 5. Somebody would even give them an overtime, you know, whatever it was, and they'd say, I could afford to be a little less. We'll get through this, and 6 months later they make it through, and everybody's back to 5 days, but they worked it as in a whole, and they didn't say. If the owner says, I made a lot of bad decisions, you guys are going to suffer for it, that's not the case. But if you read some of the books like The Eaters Eat Last and all that stuff, it just is like, what can we do to make this work for everybody? Because the economy plunged. We had everything going, and we didn't know this was going to happen, and we're all part of it. I could either lay 100 people off, or we could decide to do this as a group. It's your guys' call.
Gotcha.
So that's something to think about.
Yeah. So were you ever in that position where you were solving problems, like you were making decisions to solve a problem? Because based on what you just told me with like the golf example, that's like, hey, let's do this to get better at it rather than like. Right. Yeah.
To
get better at it versus solve a problem. Those are two different mindsets in my opinion.
I agree. I've had some aha, holy shit moments that I'm like, man, wow, this needs to change today. And I'll walk in and I'll see bills or payroll and I'll go, oh my God. Like, I can't look at everything at all times.
Right.
But you need to set up places to look at things, and I'll go, how is this possible? What do we got going on here? And literally, like, I'll log in, and years ago, I remember logging into the Amex statement and be like, what's this, and this? And I talked to my software marketing team, like, oh, we don't even use that anymore. Well, why are we still using it? It's $400 a month. And like, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So that's just about poor systems. It's about... It's not having checklists. It's not having system. It's not having a forum for people to actually talk about things.
But maybe it's too busy that you just don't have time to pay attention to things.
Oh yeah, and you know, but ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, it is.
It's like I don't want to look.
Bites you
When
in
you
the
do
ass.
look, when you do look, you're like, shit, this is not good.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, a lot of owners, they don't want to know. They don't want to have to deal with reality. It's like the guy that doesn't want to go to the doctor. I've been healthy my whole life, but if I do go, I don't want to hear. I don't want to take the chance. They might find something, but you know what? If they find it early enough, you're guaranteed 100%. It's not going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
But so many of us wait. We wait, and then guess what? They're like, you got 6 months to live.
Yeah.
It's too late. So checking up, it's like your business. You go to a doctor, and that's what consultants are a lot of the time. You go to a doctor, and they kind of tell you what you need to be looking for, right? What should I be taking? Vitamin C, a little bit of vitamin E, staying out of the sun, getting my exercise. What did you recommend for this? High cholesterol? Okay, yeah. But also, what do I need? You know, how often should I be back to get my checkup? Because maybe the prescription changes over time. Maybe every 6 months it changes.
Well, and just like I think your business as it ages and grows and does what it does, it's just like your body. You're doing different things for your health when you're 30, 40, 50 that you just weren't doing when you were 20.
Absolutely.
Same thing with your business. You know, at 5 million, 10 million a year, you're looking at things way different than when you were, $250,000 a year.
Absolutely. It's so much different. And luckily, everybody that knows me said the reason you've done well is because of marketing and sales. Operations, I've been very poor at. I needed to go to outside help for that. Mm-hmm. And I believe I've got that dialed in now. Systems, trust me, I've had to log in and do a lot of things. Half my classes were online. I mean, I've done a lot of things, but I'm no system expert. I'm not going to log into something and just rewrite the algorithm and just figure, the API and all this stuff. Like, I can talk about it, and I know some stuff, but I'd rather have somebody that's an expert teach me on the fastest, most effective ways. It's like, have you ever been in Microsoft Word and then maybe your daughter comes by and is like, Dad, why are you doing that? Just ding, ding, ding. And it's like, why didn't I even ask you? Why didn't I even ask for help? And it's almost annoying when that happens, but you're like, geez, you just saved me about an hour a day because of that.
Exactly.
Isn't that fun?
It is. It is.
And it's annoying, but it's fun.
It is. So what do you think, because like one thing I've noticed about you, again, because we even met at an event that you were going to get some coaching and more learning.
Yeah.
So you've been pretty good at asking for help. Was there a time that you weren't? And like, what's helped you get to where you're okay, just maybe put the ego down or whatever it is and asking for help along the way?
I've been pretty fortunate to be able to not be the guy to not ask for help, because so many people along the way have actually kind of helped me. And I don't know why. I've never been a what's the word I'm looking for? I've never been just this project that needs to be worked on all the time. But I remember one day my vacuum cleaner broke, and my mind just said immediately, call my dad and have him fix it. And my dad goes, Tommy, take the damn vacuum apart and fix it. And I took it apart, had a broken belt, I went and got a belt and I fixed it. Mm-hmm. But I've always asked for help in some regard, but I gotta be honest with business, I'm like, I always felt like I was gonna get ambushed and ripped off and someone's just gonna take me.
Yeah.
And they want to get their wet claws into me and just take my hard-earned money. And what I found with the people that I've worked with that I really like, whether they be consultants or classes or business owners that I can learn from, is I look at their compassion, how much are they checking up on me, and do they really care? And is it something to where I could see immediate results, or at least they're working with me? I've done marketing for people in the past, and they said I haven't seen any results, and I've been like, I'm not going to charge you till we do, as long as we are communicating with each other and you're being honest with me, because I'm genuinely interested in your success. Yeah. I don't want to charge you money just for you to go out to the next person and say, do not deal with that guy. He's just after a few of your bucks, because quite honestly, I'd rather say, no, keep your money. If you don't think I could help you and show you certain things, then fine, I'm fine with that, but let's not work together. And I know how that is, because man, I've seen some leeches. I've seen a lot of advertising agencies, especially. They'll charge you $300 to make a phone call. It's like a lawyer. It's like, dude, how the hell did we get this kind of bill? And it's just, it's actually, that's what's caused me the most for ask for help is, can I find somebody I can trust? Remember I said in the beginning, trust? Yeah. Trust is the most important thing. Communication. Mm-hmm. That if I need to get a hold of you and I've got a question, that you're going to respond to my email, phone call, or text, and then knowing that you actually know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you can give me those 3 things, then we got a good business.
We're good.
We're going to work together. And don't take advantage of me. Charge me a good rate because you're worth it.
Yeah.
And if we get those, if we understand that, mutually understand that those common grounds, then we'll be good together.
That's awesome. Well, it's pretty exciting. So when did you hire your first business coach? How many years into A1 was it before you did that?
I don't even know. I've had, I've hired a lot of people for certain things. So it just depends on, like, is it a full-blown coach or is it someone to help me with a marketing campaign or is it someone to manage a pay-per-click campaign or is it somebody that's, because I'm a marketing, right? I love marketing. Or am I hiring? I believe everything I've done, whether it's Call Cap or a Service Titan, I've got people within Service Titan I call to consult. Literally, they're helping me manage my software, which is giving me, there's no such thing as a COO. The operations manager, no, they're gone. It's CTO. The technology now manages the operational decisions of where a company should be. Okay. If you want a COO, go back to 1980. Yeah. But you need a CTO that understands that the operation should run through technology. Okay. Now that's a lot to swallow there, but if you think about it, my brother-in-law works for GE. He's pretty high up now. He's a vice president. He was the one that told me that, and I'm like, dude. He's like, dude, you know how you're training now? He goes, right now, GE guys, they got virtual glasses. They're training virtually. They're putting the Boeing engines together virtually.
That's crazy.
And that's where we're coming to very soon. It's exponential. The difference between linear growth, if you and I walk 30 steps, we're right next to the next building right here. If we walk 30 steps exponentially, we're back 10 times to here in Chicago. Yeah. Because 1 step equals 2 steps equal 4, 8, 16, 32. All of a sudden you start jumping. It flies. So that's what I mean is if you think about that concept, and right now you got to get help. You got to create a culture of change, that it's acceptable. You smile and you say, look, bring it on. Let's make it better. One of the things I showed you in our things is you're always willing to find efficiencies and grow and find better solutions. And you should get rewarded. If there's a better way to clean the toilet, to save 5 seconds, 5 seconds a day on our 4 toilets is 20 seconds. Now you figure that out over 10 years, we just saved about, it's small, but if you're doing 20 of those, if you're doing 20 of those a day. Right. All the time.
That's crazy. Now, when you first started, and obviously probably for a few years, you wore a lot of hats. Probably like every hat for a while, and then
like you should identify the hats that you're wearing, identify what those manuals or roles look like, find out who you're going to hire, and which ones you hate doing. Which ones could you find somebody better to do? Yeah. For me, it's accounting and taxes, because I got to tell you, someone asked me the other day, did you notice that the camera, the projector was going sideways? I'm like, no, I don't know. No. They're like, you're probably not the best accountant. Because you're supposed to notice little things like that. Yeah. And I'm not OCD where I'm like, the towel has to be here and it's color coordinated.
Straighten it all up.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it's fine. If I was like that, I could never be who I am in this business. Because I'd be like, oh my gosh, this needs to go here and this needs to be. But you want an accountant and someone in finance to be like that and make sure the bills are paid on time and notice when there's not consistencies. Like, why is the electric bill $300 different from last year the same time? Maybe the air conditioning units needs to be tuned up. Maybe it's because, but they're actually looking at why.
Instead of just accepting it, say, well, this is happening, find out what's going on. So what would you say your job description is today?
Number one is where we're at today. It's more to be, I'm the owner. Yeah. Okay. I'm not the COO. I'm not the guy that everybody reports up to, and it's hard for me to take that because I still do the morning calls, which is something I'm going to be getting rid of because I love the morning mojo, right? Because so many people have said, man, you're not an absentee owner, you're here every day, you're still involved, and that meant a lot to me.
But you're involved differently though.
But now, your job as an owner should be making sure the statements are accurate. The bills are being paid, but you're not there doing the bills. Right. You're not there crunching the numbers in QuickBooks, but you're making sure that there's certain things going on. You're still involved in certain meetings. There's certain people that lead up to you But typically you want someone else below you at the size we are, that everything leads up to them, and now you're very close with this guy.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm trying to figure out a way to grow the business. I'll walk into a meeting when I want to be in a meeting, but I don't have to be in a meeting. I could go into a market, check it out, maybe give some feedback, but at some point you want to get people you give them the ability and the trust to grow, but give them an incentive too.
Well, that's interesting. So now it was good for you to trust, to be able to let go, but what does that do? Once you trust in the person, how do they respond or behave differently? Once you put that trust in them.
One of the consultants I work with always said, "Whiff them. What's in it for me?" And as long as you give them what's in it for them, is there potential growth? Do they get more time off? Do they get to park at a certain parking spot? Do they get to go on a manager outing with us? It doesn't always be you get a $10,000 raise. Right. So many people say, "Oh yeah, everybody always wants more money." No, sometimes are you going to give them employee of the month? Are you going to praise them in public? Are you going to acknowledge the fact they're doing good? So you're going to have a bunch of, we'll call it, because I used the word earlier, disciples for your business, that are cheerleaders going out there. Like literally, I was out to eat the other day. One of my managers saw a busboy busting his butt, and he handed him a business card, and he's like, "This is what you want us to do, right?" I was like, yes. I mean, last weekend I was showing a guy Melomotive, where we do the automotive and vehicle wraps and everything, and I'm like, "Look, I got a key, but I got to check on the alarm code. I don't come here very often on the weekend." I drove up and it's open, so I kind of pull in and I'm looking around, and I show up, and I shit you not, one guy's mopping. The other guy's working on the top rack. We got these tubes up there. He was painting them. And I walk in, and one guy's putting a wrap on Saturday.
Yeah. And
I walked out of there with the biggest freaking smile going, nobody's watching these guys. The manager wasn't there that day. And these guys are all working, hustling. And I just felt, I'm like, this is amazing. And I felt really good. Not that it was me, but that I got a great crew of people that are doing these things. And there are checks and balances, but Saturday morning at the new business that hasn't been around very long, to have that and see that was made me feel good.
Because you probably had a lot of days where you walked in and like the exact opposite was going on.
Oh my gosh. Right? I walk in sometimes. I had a guy once tell me he could actually steal everything in my warehouse with my own forklift, and we wouldn't have known.
Crazy, right? But then to walk in on that, I mean, that's years of development of the people, putting the systems in place.
It is.
Trusting them and just really doing some great decisions.
So it's accountability. It's accountability. It's trust. And it's with them. What's in it for me? And there's a lot of things that take place, but most of all, it's the definition of insanity. What a lot of business owners out there are doing is doing the same thing and expecting different results. They think they're making progress, but literally, the thing is, I've been there. And where do you think I go? Do you think I go to a $5 million company when I want to find something out? No, I go to a $250 million company. And I go, show me, because a lot of them were 40 million, 50 million at one point.
Yeah.
And they go, here's some of the hurdles I remember hitting. But I'll tell you what, it's easier to go from 50 million to 500 million than it is to go from 1 million to 10 million.
Yeah.
Because 1 million to 10 million is when you're going through a lot of things. You're figuring out whose hats to wear. You're building manuals. You're building strategy. You're learning more about marketing, and you're learning to rely on systems rather than people. Stuff happens. You might have an amazing assistant, and you say, it took me 23 years to get to know her and understand her. Work on that manual, because guess what? If she goes away, your life shouldn't fall apart.
That's great. Well, look, man, this has been good. It's been a lot of fun. Just some little following or closing remarks is just to add to what Tommy just said, because it's what was this guy's name? It's Oprah's boyfriend, Stedman. I actually met that guy.
Oh, really?
Stedman. Yeah, he's a cool guy. But one of the things that he said, he says, if you're doing this, he says, if you wake up and do the same thing today that you did yesterday, you're really doing nothing. And I think that's the truth. And that's, I've been there myself personally, and it's one of the reasons I think that Tommy and I really connect, because personally and individually we've been to those places where you're looking at how do you get over some hurdles. And every now and then you got to wake up and realize, what are you going to do differently today or this week or this month than you did before to really start taking your business to the next level. So enjoyed the time and the conversation with Tommy, and hope you guys got a lot out of it. Just pay attention to this stuff, because there may be some things you picked up that'll be really helpful. And stay tuned to the podcast. Pay attention. Then if you haven't got a chance to get on one of our discovery or strategy calls yet, book some time with us to pick our brain a little bit on a one-on-one basis. And other than that, have a great one, and hope you enjoyed it all.
Yeah, one last thing with an exit thing is I'm going to go get a drink from our vending machine. This is a funny little story. Originally, I'm like, I'm not going to let anybody else make money on a vending machine. So I bought these really old vending machines, and we had to buy stuff from Costco every 2 weeks and fill them up. And one of the pop exploded in it and all this stuff. So now I'm getting ready to go get a drink out of the vending machine. So I thought about this. So now we paid a group to bring it in. They fill it up. Yeah. Is it do I lose some money out of it? Yeah, I'm sure I'm probably going to lose $500 to $1,000 a month. But that's not what I do. I'm not a vending machine provider. I don't need to do this stuff. So literally all I would say is you're not going to be a master of everything. Look, you can be a jack of all trades, a master of none. And the point is, if there's things you could use help on, that's what the discovery call is on. And look, I'll be honest, I'd rather refer you to one of the people I've worked with if it's something that we don't specialize in. But we're just trying to look at an overview of your business and find out what's going to be best. And Kenyon knows a lot of this stuff. He's done it for a long time, and we've worked together. He knows what's going on behind the doors, behind the scenes at A1. So take a minute, check it out, fill it out. It doesn't cost anything. Worst case scenario, you'll probably learn a couple of products you might want to look into. Maybe software, maybe consultants. Maybe you want to work with us. Maybe we can help you with an advertising campaign. But I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, if we can't help you, we'll send you to a place that probably can.